Bernie Sanders has outlined his policy proposal for student loan debt forgiveness, and it is the most aggressive of the Democratic candidates so far, even more aggressive than what Elizabeth Warren has proposed. And I loved what Elizabeth Warren proposed. I like this more, and I'll tell you why. So first, here are the details. He's proposing the federal government pay to wipe clean the student debt held by 45 million Americans, including all private and graduate school debt, as part of a package that also would make public universities, community colleges, and trade schools tuition free. Now, some people hate that because they feel, well, there's two reasons. First, there are people who have already paid off their student loan debt and they're thinking about how unfair it is to them. Okay, the second group of people think, well, why are we gonna forgive student loan debt for wealthy people? I have news for you. Most wealthy people do not have student loan debt. They're not crippled by student loan debt, but also this is part of a strategy that I think is gonna be more effective, because if the universal nature of this allows for more people to back it, right? If you just shave a small group of people who would be forgiven, or even a sizable group of people who would have their student loans forgiven, well, then there are others who are not included in the legislation who would be angry, upset, left out. You get the picture. And then who decides what the cutoff is for student loan debt and how wealthy you are. So I think that this is actually a more simplistic system, and I want the student loan debt wiped clean.
Yeah, so all the successful programs include everybody, including rich people. So a common example that folks give is Social Security. The reason that it's so popular is it applies to everyone. And if you don't have it apply to everyone, like food stamps, for example. Now that's understandable, that's specifically aimed at people who can't afford food. But it allows wealthy donors to start picking away at it. And they demonize it and they attack it. And so Social Security has survived, but it's not the only example, Medicare of course as well, but things as simple as the police and schools, they apply to everybody, right? If the rich people had to pay for their own private security, do you think they would keep funding your cops? Right, or firefighters, et cetera. No, it's gotta apply to everybody, it makes it more sustainable. Now, there's two elements to this, the policy and the politics. I wanna save the politics to the end. In terms of the policy, if you've been watching the Young Turks for a while, you've literally seen my evolution on this issue. From time to time, I talk about how the viewers and new facts, and sometimes Anna changes my mind. Okay, so I remember when Jill Stein first proposed this back in 2016, and I'll be the only one in media to ever give her credit for anything. She had this idea first, and I remember interviewing her, and she was sitting right there and thinking, that sounds a bit much. And so you can go back to that old interview and you can see my skepticism, right? But as time evolved, I got to see more and more facts of how much it's crushing the American economy, let alone the students. So for example, did you know that in the last 2 decades, student debt has gone from $90 billion to $1.6 trillion?
Well, I did know that, Cenk.
Yes, I know, you're the expert on it. Okay, no, but seriously, it's more than 16x what it was just a couple of decades ago. So when Biden dismisses millennials and says like, oh, give me a break about how tough they have it. No, you don't get it. You're like, what's the big deal? I paid off my student debt. Yeah, yours was $5, right? These things are now monstrous. So by the time Elizabeth Warren introduced her plan to take care of a portion of student debt, it's a significant portion.
Yes, it is.
I supported the plan because I realized the economic benefit that would come from it, how much worse it's gotten, and some of the things that rigged the system in the first place, including, honestly, Joe Biden authoring that bill that said you could never get rid of student debt. And Trump can declare 6 bankruptcies, but if you're a student, you're shackled with it for the rest of your life. Now I've gotten to the point where I think going all the way is the correct strategy. So I agree with you, Anna, this is even better than Warren's plan.
This is better, and just to give you a few of the details in regard to what Warren proposed, she proposed forgiving about $640 billion in student loan debt, whereas Bernie wants to wipe it clean, right? And when people keep arguing, well, it's too expensive, how are you gonna pay for it? Of course, that question I've been hearing over and over again in the press. He does outline how he would pay for it, but more importantly, he talks about the bailouts that the banks received, that Wall Street received following the 2008 meltdown. And these are people who knowingly did things that crashed the economy and they got bailed out by us, the US taxpayer. Why can't we help students get out of this mess? Which, yes, it helps those students, but it also helps the greater economy, the real economy. Right now, everything is propped up by consumer debt. People have to keep on taking out more loans, more credit card debt just to make ends meet. We need to create a real economy where people aren't relying on loans and debt in order to provide the bare essentials for themselves and their families. So how is Sanders gonna pay for this? He's proposing to pay for these plans with a tax on Wall Street. His campaign says will raise more than $2 trillion over 10 years. The plan implements a new tax on financial transactions, including a 0.5% tax on stock transactions and a 0.1% tax on bonds. Such a levy would curb Wall Street speculation while reducing income inequality.
Conservatives jump in and go, oh, it would stunt economic growth and investment. Really? You're not going to invest in a company because of the 0.5% tax? That's not true at all. What it will prevent, though, is constantly trading and retrading positions, high frequency trading, some of those things, because then the tax will add up. But the high frequency trading is basically done to rip off the market. So that's why it would reduce speculation and add to the economy. So it's part of the reason that I've been won over on all of these issues. And whereas when the students get that money, or they're relieved of the burden of having to pay back that money, they immediately can take that extra money that they're spending on their loans every single month and put it right back in the economy, into food, housing, cars, etc. And that greatly stimulates the economy.
So, of course, Bernie's gonna have his critics, some on the left, but the majority from the right. Mike Huckabee happens to be one of those critics when it comes to this proposal. Let's hear what he has to say, and then we're gonna debunk it.
Well, why stop at student loans, Sandra? Let's go ahead and wipe out everybody's home loans. There's a lot of people who are in trouble because they bought more home than they could afford. Their rates went up at an adjustable rate. What about car loans? Let's pay those off. Give everybody a free car. And by the way, I really resent it when Bernie says we're gonna pay off the college loans of today's kids because of what we did in 1944. He must not have remembered and even acknowledged it, but didn't seem to input it, is that people did something for their country to get that college education on the GI Bill. What he's saying is, let's just let people burn our flag, let's let them sit during the national anthem, and we're still gonna pay off their college loan. I'm all for getting college paid for by people who want to serve in our military or serve this country, maybe through some other means. But just to pay off the loans, they took those loans. I'm sorry they took out so much and they can't pay it back, but somebody should have told them.
So did Mike Huckabee just accuse 45 million Americans of being flag burners? Did he just slander all of these students as flag burners? He just completely mischaracterized them, which is disgusting. Mike Huckabee is so gross. And by the way that he is framing this is, look, they're not taking personal responsibility. No one told them to take out those loans. But we live in America where you literally cannot get a good paying job unless you have a college education. So how do you pick yourself up by the bootstraps if education is unattainable, if you can't afford it? So students are being pushed toward loans because they have no other options. And Mike Huckabee also talks about, well, back in the day, people paid for their loans and it wasn't a problem. Yeah, look, I don't know when he was a student, right? Was it the 1930s? I have no idea. But student loan debt has gone up a lot. Student tuition has gone up a lot just in the last decade. And I wanna give you those statistics so you understand how much of an issue this is for young people today. So, he went to a Baptist university, Ouachita Baptist University, and this is what tuition looked like in 1985. Tuition then was $2,950. So if you adjust it for inflation, $6,580 today. But tuition in 2016 was $24,400, okay? So an increase of 271%.
Ouch, Ida.
Yeah, exactly. Since 1978, college tuition and fees have increased by a whopping 1,120%. During that same period, the price of food has increased 244%, and medical expenses 601%. In fact, tuition prices have gone up 4 times faster than the consumer price index, and that's according to reporting by Bloomberg. I'm bringing this up because people like Mike Huckabee live in a different world. They don't have to go through this, right? They sit in their ivory towers and they get to enjoy all of their privileges. They don't have to worry about putting their kids through college. They don't have to worry about their children stressing about what their future is going to be.
Yeah. Now, finally, let's go to the politics of it. I think it's great politics. So Joe Biden came out today and said, look, I'm not going to give everything free to everybody like my competitors. He's referring to Warren and Sanders. And that's terrible politics.
Good.
So Hillary Clinton also said, oh, we're not going to change anything. Okay, yeah, you know what? Not doable, impractical. And it was terrible politics then, it's terrible politics today. You know what Obama campaigned on? You should remember, Joe, because you were his running mate. There's giant placards that said change. People want change. And there's an albatross around everyone's neck. And it's these, right now, even the billionaires are saying, for love of God, increase taxes on us. This is insanity. 19 billionaires came out today with a letter saying, increase taxes on the rich. This is crazy. Income inequality is hurting the whole country. They polled Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax that applies to people that have more than $50 million. They polled just millionaires. 60% of millionaires said, yes, obviously you should do that. You should tax us a lot more. When they got to people who make over $5 million, it went up from 60% to 2/3, saying, yes, for God's sake, raise taxes on the rich. What is wrong with you guys? And what is wrong with them is not even the majority of the rich. It is a minority of the rich that do all of the campaign financing. They give to the Republican Party and a lot of the Democratic Party, and they go, do not help the kids. The reason Joe Biden was called the senator from MBNA, that was a credit card company and a financial institution back in the day, is because he was, they were his top donor, and they also were from his state. And so he passed a bill saying you can't ever get rid of your student debts, because he wanted to help financial institutions that had a lot of student debt that they were collecting on. So it is those campaign donors that are ruining this system. So you've got to get the money out, but also proposals like this that actually both help the economy and help the average American citizen to live the American dream is the way to go. And Huckabee, it's not like a car or a house. Remember, high school also used to be paid. You actually had to bring in someone who taught your kids, and only rich people got to get that education. And we changed that, and we didn't then turn around and go, oh, so what? They should pay for their junior high school and elementary school teachings. It's, oh, what am I going to give them a car next? No, that's how you live the American dream and have economic opportunity, and it applies to college just as much as it does to high school. Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.